If you want to make sure you stay in good conversation, you gotta tune in to Coffee and Conversation with Collette. That's me. Thursday mornings from 7 a.m. to 8 a.m. on the only station, WHBR TV 33. See you soon. Great, amazing Friday morning to you all. You're officially tuned in to Coffee and Conversation with Collette. Now, you know I do my curtsy thing. I am Collette Ramsey. It's a pleasure to be, in the studio with you today, in your screen today, whether you are watching us TV 33 or if it's Comcast or Roku or streaming live, however you got to us today, thank you so much because we know that you want to be a part of the conversation and that means everything. Like I tell you, we don't take your time and your talent for granted. So thank you so much for just being stewards and ambassadors of this wonderful station and the conversations and the work that we're doing here. And I believe that that is a direct correlation into the conversation that we're going to continue to have. But before I begin that, I just want to say great morning to my parents. Great morning. If you all have texting me, thank you so much. I left my phone. Let me just say that. So Collette does not have her phone. So if I have not responded to anyone this morning, I apologize because I left my phone. And sometimes that's a problem with technology is because you become so accustomed to having something and then you don't have it. And then it's like you kind of don't know what to do. so I don't have my phone. So I just wanted to put that out there. And everyone, I will make sure I reach out to you after I get off the air and get my phone. But wanted to let you all know that we were having a conversation about the riots, the Detroit 1967 riots. You all know that we are 2 days away. It is the 20th, Friday, July the 20th, and the 21st. I see. Yesterday was the 20th. It was the 21st. We are 2 days away from the 50-year acknowledgement. I don't call it a celebration. I don't call it an anniversary of the riots. It's 50 years from the 5-day devastation that happened in the city of Detroit. And I asked you all yesterday, was there a need to riot? And I got wonderful responses. And let me give you all the call-in numbers today, if you don't have them. 313-868-0342, 313-868-0351, or 313-868-4336. And you all were great in giving a historical perspective where you were at that time. A lot of you were right there in the thick of the riot experience, talking about what it was like to live around 12th Street, talking about the E-Lights, talking about that Mumford community, talking about the difference in communities, the plight of black people at that time in this city. But no one answered the question, was there a need to riot? Now, you will know our Friday mornings include an amazing, it's not even an interview experience. He's just the host. It's like flying a plane. So imagine us, we're in the plane and he's right over here. If I'm on the left, he's on the right. If I'm on the right, he's on the left. This son of man from the New Nation of Islam, you know that it's our time together on Friday mornings. We've been so fortunate to be able to actually go from 7 to 9 over the last couple of weeks in our conversations because they have been so in-depth and you all have engaged. And so that is what we appreciate because what do we always say? There's more than one way to have a conversation. We are going to walk away educated, enlightened, and empowered. We are going to be respectful of the dialogue and of each other, that we can always agree to disagree, but at the end, knowing that it is for the common good. It's for the greater good. It is not to build ego, to acknowledge ego. It is for the good of who we say we are and who we want to be in this society. Son of Man has challenged us over the weeks to be a steward of words, to be mindful of what you say, the meaning of the words that you use, to understand the meanings. That's important as we converse because it's all in what you say. In the beginning was the Word, and the Word was God. that is where we are. So we're gonna get there. I'm gonna let Son of Man chime in momentarily, but I just wanted us to revisit. And of course, Son of Man is coming from a location of Los Angeles, a childhood. So I can't wait for him to give us an overview of what that was. And literally, again, was there a need? I'm going to give you all the quote, and I think that this quote is relevant today as it was yesterday. The quote came from Martin Luther King Jr., and it reads, "The limitation of riots, moral questions aside, is that they cannot win and their participants know it. Hence, rioting is not revolutionary but reactionary because it invites defeat. It involves an emotional catharsis, but it must be followed by a sense of futility." So, I defined for us the use of words catharsis, the process of releasing and thereby providing relief from strong or repressed emotions. I identified through dictionary futility, pointlessness, or uselessness. So that we needed the emotional release of the riot to say that we stood up for ourselves, that we were sick and tired of being tired and tired of sick. You know that phrase, I'm sick and I'm tired of being sick and tired. Is that what the phrase is? And so we stood up and so we fought back. And in the midst of us fighting and causing this melee, riot, one of the synonyms is a melee, that 5 days later, what did we have from it? Was it a pointless effort? Was it useless? And so that's where we are. And I wanted to know yet again if we believe in now 2017, because we are still having riots. And I asked, is there any difference? So we are 50 years removed from the riots that happened in Detroit. And I showed a clip yesterday of the mayor at that time. It was Mayor Kavanaugh. And he opened up so eloquently in saying that he was so proud of representing Detroit, that this was a new Detroit. And we were on the brink of all these great, wonderful things, the growth of our economy, and we were thriving, one of the best, largest metropolitan cities in this country, boasting some 2 million residents. And he was so proud to represent that Detroit. And so it's the new Detroit. And so now in 2017, we have that same language. We have a mayor who says he's so proud to represent this new Detroit, this new economy, this new environment that's thriving as you all have been presented. And so in 1967, it didn't include black folk. And the conversation is for 2017, it's not including black folk. So I'm asking us today, as we look back, we tend to look back more than we look forward. But as we consistently look back on that experience, was there a need? Does it benefit us? The purpose of a riot? And then how do we move forward? So, Son of Man, great morning to you. I wanted to give an overview of the conversation, the topics that we had yesterday, and some of the dialogue that supported that topic, and can't wait to hear from you. So, assalamu alaikum this morning, sir.
Wa alaikum assalam.
Thank you.
I want to thank you for having us, and I also to say to all those who out there and thirst for truth.
Okay.
May Allah thank you. When you are right, it in order to understand it, you have to get individual. In order to understand a group action, you have to stand an individual action.
Okay.
For when countries, what you call diplomacy breaks, and they don't any other way to their problem, they declare. Now,
Son of Man, and I apologize to interrupt you. Is there any way, and and of course, for us in the studio and for our viewing audience and listening audience, we don't want the distortion. So it seems that there is a delay, a distortion. Would you be so kind as to?
Yes.
Okay, that'll be great, and we'll continue the conversation until we get you back on. So
Okay.
everyone, you're going to stay tuned because Son of Man will be back with us, and as we wait to hear his insight and from him to the continuum of the conversation, I just want to let you know that there are some calls that I got yesterday. There are some people that said, well, Collette, whereas I appreciated the conversation, I think that you perhaps created a bad light for where we were as a city and the relevance of it. And I asked, well, why would you say that? Please enlighten me, because if I presented something in such a way that caused confusion or a bad image for the city, please let me know. But my position is that we're going to have the conversation. It's imperative. We're going to have the conversation. We might not like the conversation, but we're going to have the conversation. And I'm holding us accountable for who we are in the conversations and experience and for what caused it. We talked about symptoms versus issues. So this is Son of Man, so let me get him back on the line. Son of Man?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, great. That's much better. Thank you.
Okay.
Okay.
So when you look at war controlled violence,
Okay.
and it is uncontrolled violence riot,
Yes.
and many think that declaring war. Rioters are not warriors. They are people like that definition you react to a situation they know to think about. And most times, riots are provoked
Okay.
by those exactly on people.
Okay.
Whenever government abuse people and their people,
Mm-hmm.
then that one day causes blow up. And like war, most people out this, human beings are approximately between 75% water.
Okay.
If you water a pot, you can put water in a steel, reinforced steel container
Okay.
and close it up in concrete. And if you put water in there and put fire to it, pretty soon, no matter how big that enclosure, how strong that enclosure, water will up. The force water will, because of steam and of the heat,
Yes.
expansion of the molecule, it will find it. When people are in a position where are open and cannot redress their grief, riots are generally the result.
Okay.
And so we were suffered this 400 slavery to temper. And when I for us, knowledge and experience, when you go, it stretches you to be able to deal with the same situation next time it comes,
Okay.
because you recognize and it's designed to help you to think your way through problems
Right.
rather than react your way through problems.
Yes.
So it is time for us to stop reacting
Yes.
and start acting
Yes.
on knowledge,
Yes.
not just reacting to outside stimuli. But
Yes.
when I was in Watts, I grew up in Watts.
Okay.
I spent my whole life in Watts, my young life,
Mhm.
uh, from elementary to high school. And as I recall, the the so the last straw that triggered the riots in '65 in L.A. was Mr. Deadweiler was shot by a police officer,
Okay.
and it triggered riots. And so, but by the time the riot was over, even though we didn't hardly have any businesses in downtown on 103rd Street,
Right.
by the time it was over, the only thing that was tore up was the shopping places that we shopped at, and was not we the ones. We burnt down all of our places where were convenient for us to go shop
Yes.
and whatnot. So, but it was owned by mostly Jewish people
Mhm.
on 103rd, and I remember Mr. Jordan had a shoe store there, and eventually I think they ransacked his place too. Um, I wasn't allowed to do any a great participating in that because my parents were pretty strict, and
Okay.
I couldn't
You couldn't
I
get
couldn't get
out. You
involved.
couldn't. Right. Right.
Um, and I wasn't trying to get involved. Most of the brothers on my street, we were not loose like that. Most of it started in the projects.
Okay.
Um, but I want to say to you that a riot is not the answer to any of our problems.
Okay.
I'll show you an example.
Okay.
If the riots were the prescription that a physician, let's take that as a prescription. If someone prescribed a riot
Mhm.
for us, and the problem was us being mistreated and oppressed,
Yes.
then how many riots have we had, and yet the oppression continues?
That's right.
An intelligent physician does not keep prescribing uh, a medicine or a course of action to his patient
Mhm.
that is ineffective.
Yeah.
So riots are just a emotional outburst, an emotional release.
Mhm.
When trouble comes to our community, we don't need emotionalism. We need uh, controlled thought and action.
Okay.
We need a remedy and not a release, an emotional release. We need a viable remedy and a plan of action to put a stop to whatever it is that is harming us.
Yes.
And the Honorable Elijah Muhammad was teaching back then while our people was ignoring him. He was telling them, look, stop trying to go where you're not wanted. Stop begging white people for what you can give yourself.
Yes.
And he said, unite with your own people, pool your resources, and do for yourself. And that's what he was doing, but while our people were ignoring him and trying to force their way up to a lunch counter where they wasn't wanted.
Right.
Um, I'm not saying the whole movement of integration was unprofitable,
Mhm.
because it is only right that if you pay to ride on a bus and you are charged the same price that everyone else pays, then you should have the same right to sit where you wanted to sit.
Yes.
And if they didn't want to allow that, then uh, either just say you can't ride the bus, or say you don't have to pay as much money because we gonna have this section here for you, and then you don't want to treat me the same, then uh, then don't charge me the same.
Right.
It's just like the taxes we pay in
Yes.
this country. We pay taxes equal to other people, and sometimes more.
Mm-hmm.
And yes, our tax money is used to pay police officers that hate us,
Right.
judges that hate us,
Right.
and all of the municipalities that we live under are controlled by white people, which is their country. I understand that.
Mm-hmm.
But they do to us what they would not tolerate other people doing to them.
Yes.
And they do it not because they're justified and not because we are a threat to them, but they do it to terrorize us and thinking that they can frighten us into staying up under them and working for them. And this the time for that is gone.
Mm.
It's time now for us to go on and separate and do for ourselves and stop arguing with white people over what belongs to white people.
Right.
If they don't want to share their neighborhood with us,
Mm-hmm.
well, we can build our own neighborhood.
Right.
If whatever it is that we have looked at them and admired and envied them for, we don't have to admire and envy them It's all right to admire a man for being industrious.
Great.
But the best form of admiration is to admire that and then go and do it for yourself.
Yes.
You become industrious.
Yes.
And but killing and shedding blood to get your way, that's not a remedy.
Mm-hmm.
That's the way of animals, not the way of human beings. We think our way out of conflict.
Great.
And we only fight if we are attacked.
Yes.
We defend ourselves.
Yes.
And it's a way to do that.
Okay.
But when you are in a position where this man, he controls all of the weapons, he has to, if you get a gun, you have to get it from him.
Mm-hmm.
If you get bullets, you have to get them from him. If
Right.
you get bombs or
Yes.
planes, you have to
Yes.
get them from him.
Yes.
How intelligent is it for you and I to think that we can buy weapons from this man and then go and fight him with the weapons that he sold us and win?
Right.
It's not a war if you didn't stand a chance to win.
Yes.
And if you get shot or whatnot, who you got to go to
Right.
to patch you up? And you have no place to put your women and children while you fight the war.
Right.
And so you know, even if that was a viable thing,
Mm-hmm.
which warfare has never been a viable answer to a problem. It has been at best a temporary change of people in authority, and that only lasts as long as your weapons and the people that you fighting or that fight you don't have equal or greater weapons or equal or better army or that kind of thing.
Yes.
That will never bring peace to
Yes.
your country. And so I don't adopt their way. And, the religion of Islam covers every aspect of our lives,
Okay.
and it shows us the way of peace, the way of life that will bring peace and not conflict.
Mm-hmm.
When you get ready to fight, I remember when I used to fight, the first thing we had was a conversation.
Okay.
We would be talking back and forth to each other,
Okay.
and then that talking would escalate. Next thing you know, you're fighting.
Right.
Well, it's very seldom you wind up in a fight that you didn't first have a conversation.
Right.
And so when you see that the conversation is not going correctly. Most of the time, it's because neither party is listening to the other.
Mm-hmm.
And so I've learned through the teachings of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad to listen to people and deal with the problem and not the uh, personality.
Yes.
Deal with the problem.
The problem.
And so riots don't deal with the problem. They are a reaction to the problem.
Yes.
But the problem is still there. After you get through burning up everything, you still got the same problem.
Yes.
And so, no, riots are never the solution
Nice.
to a problem.
Okay. Okay. So,
Violence is never the solution to a problem.
okay.
The only time violence is really helpful to you is in self-defense.
Okay.
And that is if someone aggresses on you, then self-defense, that is a self-teacher.
Mm-hmm.
You just naturally, you watch a baby. If he go to fall, he throw out his arms
Yeah.
to try to break his fall. That's just a natural reaction.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that is if you are attacked, then it is a natural reaction to defend yourself with whatever you can.
Yes.
But it is always better to think and not let people provoke you. I think in the gentleman era of the Wild West, they used to walk up and slap a man with a glove
Right.
and challenge them to a duel. But if you were the challenger, then the other person had a chance to decide what weapons to use.
Right.
At least that's the way I think it went.
Right.
But, you know, if people, this man got all these bombs and stuff, why would you let him provoke you into going out there with a gun?
Nice.
And, you know, I mean,
Yes.
that was the foolish thing that he did to the Native American. He sold them repeater rifles while he had Gatling guns. So, I mean, that was suicide on their part.
Yes.
And I'm not suicidal.
Mm-hmm.
And his guns won't help him against what I'm saying.
Okay. Yeah.
You know,
Nice.
I speak and I defend myself with truth and with the forces of nature. Allah has promised us, and the white man knows that. How you think he got that movie Avatar?
Yeah.
Where you think he got the idea for that?
Nice.
And so it is not
Right.
something I'm just saying. I'm living what I'm talking about.
Okay.
You know, and he has no authority over you now, but what you give him by following him.
Mm-hmm.
If you're tired of being mistreated by him, then let's get together.
Okay.
And as a group, we need to practice building for ourselves, and
Yes.
practice schooling ourselves, and practice doing for ourselves. And then we need to demand some of this earth that we can call our own.
Mm-hmm.
And if no one wants to share it, Allah will give us some.
Yeah.
And then we don't have to put up with his tyranny any longer.
Right.
And we don't have to be reactionary any longer. Being reactionary is like being a child.
Yeah.
Matter of fact, that is the level of a child. You can provoke a child and you can manipulate a child into doing things that's not in his best interest
Right.
because he's not mature in his thinking. And as long as we are immature in our thinking, then people can provoke us to do things so they can appear to be justified in murdering us and in shooting us down. Like they sell you a toy gun,
Right.
and then when the little boy go out and play with the toy gun, they make it look like a real gun.
Mm-hmm.
Then they drive up and they jump out their car and shot down Tamir Rice
Yes.
while he's out there with a toy gun.
Yep.
And they said it was justifiable because the police officer thought it was a real gun.
Right.
And I've seen them with white people that had real guns shooting at them.
Right.
And they were steady telling them to drop the gun. And even when they got their ups on him, they
Yeah.
didn't shoot him down. A lot of times they would just say, okay, drop it now. And So we know that you have murder, that they have murder, and they're harmful.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm talking to them not in a what you call belligerency and all of that type of thing. I'm just stating the fact.
Right.
And it's time for us to stop reacting, start working our way and thinking our way. Let that 400 years that we've suffered, these things that he's doing,
Yes.
we should be to a point now where we're no longer reacting, that we should deal with the problem. And the
Yes.
problem is, these people, we know they hate us. We know that they mean us no good.
Mm-hmm.
Then, okay, it's time for us to get away from them
Right.
and start doing the good that we know should be done for our people.
Right.
That's why those of us who have knowledge and understanding, we need to unite and make a way for our people on some of this earth.
Okay. Okay.
Stop spinning our wheels, trying
Yes.
to force people to love us
Yes.
that do not even love themselves.
Yes.
White people were murdering white people before they started murdering us. Most of your serial killers, they kill a bunch of white people.
Mm-hmm.
And they are white people.
Right.
So, Hitler was a white man. He was killing white people.
Yeah.
So there's no, and a man that would do that to his own, I don't know what we think we're going to get from him.
Ah.
So I'm not here to put you and me against the world. I'm here to put you and me against the way of the world.
Ah. The way of the world.
All human beings
Nice.
are out. But the way that we're doing is not. And it's time for something to happen.
Okay. Okay. Well, Son of Man, we're going to go to the line. And so I'm going to get the calls in, and then I have a question. But I don't want to, thank you for your patience. I want to jump in on the line, and I want to have a question, okay? So let's go to the line. Thanks so much for your patience. Great morning to you. Are you there?
Hello?
Good morning.
Yes, good morning. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Well, the engineer should turn it up because you can barely hear when I'm holding the line. I can't hear, what you all are saying.
Okay.
I can get little bits and pieces, but I will say this. Can you hear me good?
Yes.
The ride, I heard people talk about ride, whether it's a rebellion and a ride.
Okay.
That's not important.
Okay.
But what's important is to know, did the police spark the ride, or did the police just find the spark that was already there that started the ride?
Okay, so stay right there. Stay right there because I want to make sure I get the question. So you gave two statements. So the first was, did the police start the riot? Was that the first one?
Right.
Okay.
Most people, they're saying it on the news media
Okay.
all over about the police and on 12th Street.
Okay.
Well, no. When I came here in '63, I come to find out later they was moving, and I worked at the plant.
Mm-hmm.
They was moving bit of operation by operation out of the city.
Okay.
And not only in Detroit, in all major cities.
Mm-hmm.
And blacks like myself was coming from the South looking for a job. And I used to go and went one plant to another. But all of a sudden, all the jobs at the plant dried up. All the jobs at retail. And let me give you a good figure.
Okay.
When I came here in 1962, not when I come here, but 1962, you had 3,370 manufacturing in Detroit.
Okay.
You had 3,628 wholesale firms in Detroit.
Okay.
Retail businesses, like stores and stuff, 14,206.
Okay.
In 1972, retail, you had only 6,945.
Okay.
So, in other words, over 7,000 wholesale business left here.
Yes.
And the same thing, in about 1,000 left manufacturing and wholesale. That was the underlying condition. And the police would come by, and I was 27 then.
Okay.
And we didn't have no job. I was hanging out on Linwood and Dexter.
Okay.
And the police come by and tell us we got to move off. And we say, hell with you. That we was mad about the conditions.
Mm-hmm.
We say, hell with you. You ain't going to tell us to move off. We pay taxes here. And it got to be a running thing with the police.
Okay.
And the police, when they hit that after our joint over on 12th Street,
mm-hmm.
that spark, that fanned the spark. We was already angry because we couldn't provide for our families and stuff like that. We couldn't get no jobs. They was all leaving. And soon as we had the riot in '67 to prove that was so, the ones who the policy of the federal government in Detroit and all over the country was taking jobs out of the cities to the suburbs. Mm-hmm. They knew what the problem was. So what the federal government did, they told Ford and General Motors, y'all hire them back. If you hire them, we will pay half of their wages. Okay. That started in 1967. They would have a set up at like in Wyoming at the glass plant for Chrysler. And they would tell you how to win, and you could get back to anywhere you worked at if you worked at a factory. I worked at Dodge Main, but I was fired because I beat up the foreman because he was put too much work on me. So I wanted to get back to Dodge Main because I heard the guys was over there, General Baker, they was organizing the plant. Okay. So I went over there and started organizing back in Drum. But that's the reason they knew, because they the policy was, after World War II, Europe was all tore up. But not the United States. Okay. The only way the United States got out of the Depression was when they had to war on Europe. And Europe took all their dollar reserves and bought them up in the United States and to buy ammunition and food and stuff.
Okay.
So when the war was over, the United States was the only capitalist country in the world standing. And the capitalism was about ready to fold. So the United States had to give them a market. And they figured out, to give them a market, we need to spread our manufacturing out so it won't hurt any one city. That's when they started moving everything to the suburbs long before the riot. But the news wanted me like it was the riot. Just people was mad and just wanted to steal something. You know what I'm saying?
Okay.
But that wasn't the.
So let me ask you this, and then I'm going to ask Brother Tyrone. Hold on one second. So hold on one second, Brother Tyrone. So let me ask you this question.
The situation there is now different today.
Okay.
We're moved out of the workforce, and we are having riots today.
Yes.
But the riot is not like the riots in the '60s. We exploited on the system. Was trying to exploit on the system, but today we are having an implosion with no opportunity for jobs in the neighborhoods in Chicago, in Detroit, all major cities. Like when we go to the store in Detroit, we see an immigrant.
Yeah.
That policy came about, and that's what took the jobs in the town.
Okay, so, but wait a minute. I have a question. Brother Tyrone. Okay, so I have a question. So I understand. So is it correct? Am I hearing you correctly that folks were so fed up because we didn't have jobs, so we want to lash out because we can't take care of our families, and we're lashing out against the same system that employs us, so then we hope that they're going to give us jobs back. Is that what you just said?
No, they had riots because that was the underlying reason. Now, there was no conscious thing like, if I have a riot, they'll give me a job. They did. The police was as we didn't have no money for our rent and stuff for the first time.
Yeah.
When the police come in hot in the summertime and we ain't got no air conditioning, and we sitting out there trying to talk and communicate, and we was talking on Linwood, Marvin Gaye used to come up and we would be talking about what was going on. That's how he started that song of What's Going On, and the name of his album was Inner City Blues.
Right.
We had a newspaper called Inner City Blues. We had a newspaper called Inner City Boys.
Right.
And we talked about revolution and stuff. That's how he got that, because he used to hang down Linwood with us.
Okay.
So, no, there wasn't no conscious thought if we get a job. But what the factory done and Hudson and them done, they got together and they got the federal government, and the federal government said we'll pay half to get them out of the street, and that lasted to '69, and then Nixon start cutting it off because you had a '68 recession.
Okay.
So, but no, it's not an organized way. It was not organized at all.
Right.
People were spread up. But up north, there was no organization of the masses of working people like in the South. King was and there was an organizing of working people. There was no organization of working people. So when people that got no organization and they got oppressed, they will explore, and they do it all over the world.
And you're right, and I get that, and I'm going to ask Son of Man to chime in. I guess I go back to the whole concept that Son of Man presented, that we're fighting still, and then you go back to the same person that you're fighting, and you're asking them for a handout. And so you wonder, how is it supposed to get better? Because I'm fighting the same person that I'm depending on. Son of Man, do you have any comments on that?
Well, the main thing is we always
I can't hear.
Okay, let's see. Son of Man,
Tell the
can you?
engineer to turn it up a little bit.
Okay.
I was just saying the main thing is that we always, just like the information that you share about statistics and the job situation and whatnot.
Mm-hmm.
Well, when America, when the manufacturers in America, when President Roosevelt opened up the country to trade with other nations, up until that time, America had plenty of jobs because they were only dealing inside of their own borders for the most part.
Okay.
Once after the 60s, as you were saying, once America and the business corporations start moving outside of the country, that's naturally the jobs, because they could get cheaper labor and that kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
Jobs that were in the that we were filling
Okay.
were going to people overseas in different places, and it has been a steady trickle of that.
Okay.
Our reaction, instead of listening to the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, we didn't listen to him, and we was mad and wanted white people to make jobs for us, while the messenger was telling us you should pool your resources and make jobs for yourself.
Mm-hmm.
And because we, the average one of us, couldn't see that, couldn't fathom that, we're just assembly line workers or whatnot. Mm-hmm. We turned him down. We turned the messenger down and turned a deaf ear to him. And he was trying to get the educators, the educated class, the professional class of our people, to help him to make jobs for the rest by, opening up our own bakeries and open up our own supermarkets and open up our own fast food places and things like that. Mm-hmm. Trying to get our people to see we can do this. Start your own farm.
Right.
He bought farmland and all of that. But couldn't get us to cooperate. Couldn't get the masses of our people to cooperate, and so they brought suffering on themselves. And just like now, riots solve nothing. All they are is a waste of good energy. You putting putting your energy and your dissatisfaction to the wrong use.
Mm-hmm.
When you get really dissatisfied, that can be turned into a positive thing because it's a motivator. It's a motivating force to get up and do something. Then when you go out there and just what you decide to do is make a Molotov cocktail or whatever and
Right.
and blow something up. Well, that's not the answer.
Right.
And so we spend a lot of time talking,
Yeah.
and just like me, I'm just a talk guy.
Okay.
Because most of the time when we're talking, we don't listen. Just like just now when you were talking, brother, the sister was trying to get you to hear her, and you were so wrapped up in what you were saying, you then stopped. And like that's the one thing I try to pride myself in. Is if I'm giving information and someone wants to stop me and question me about the source or whatnot of my information,
Mm-hmm.
I welcome that.
Yes.
But
Yes.
most of us, we don't listen.
Right.
We just want to be heard. We don't. We were taught that way.
Right.
We've been taught bigotry. We have been taught that whatever we say, we don't have to give no proof of it or whatnot, because nobody ever really gave us any proof of what they call themselves teaching us.
Right. Right.
They just told
Right.
us we got to believe it, or like in church, you got to believe Jesus died for you.
Yeah.
And why? That's you're gonna go to hell if you don't.
Right.
Well, they're gonna frighten you into believing something that don't make no sense. But anyway, I'm here to tell you all we should unite and pool our resources and quit leaving ourselves in a position where people can mistreat us. Because when people walking on you and you laying down there for them to walk on you, you can't blame it all on them, and you won't get up, won't get out the way.
Yeah.
No, tell them, hey man, let me get out your way so you don't have to keep on stepping on me.
Yeah.
Well, that's what we need to do now. We need to unite and get out of their way.
I agree, Brother Tyrone. We appreciate your phone call.
Collette, you there?
Yes. Can you hear me? You there?
Is Collette still there?
Yeah, I'm still here. You got me, son of man?
Okay, I hear you.
Okay, great. We're thanking Brother Tyrone for his call. Thank you so much. Let's go to another caller.
Thank you so much. Let's go to another call.
Okay. I need you to turn your volume down. Okay, you there, caller?
Am I? Is it me?
Yes.
Yeah, I called in yesterday
Okay.
also.
Yes.
And as I referenced, I wasn't here,
Okay.
if you remember.
Yes.
I was in the military, okay, not by choice, but whatever. Now, so the comments that I made, and I really, I understand exactly what, I think not exactly, but what the Son of Man is saying about uniting and get together. Because what I'm seeing now is that I look at the differences. When I say differences, okay, the population to unite and get together, someone has to give up something. If we're in America, or if you're in another country, or if you're in another land. In other words, there are people there already. The world is not as small as we might put and think in my mind. I don't say it's impossible.
Okay.
Okay, that's not what I'm saying. But and usually the way that has been done is that America, and not only America, other people, they go and take it from you.
Okay.
And he is saying, and I agree with him. You can't fight against this system of what it is, and with the weapons that they have. I mean, I know he understands it because he's been in the military. He knows that they have an abundance of death weapons. Okay. My problem is that it's not even a problem, because I don't even believe I'm trying to even solve it. I have a family, and they have ran in droves towards this system,
Okay.
and they do not want to let go. Now I can see this.
Mm-hmm.
If anything, I'm trying to work on the youngest ones.
Okay.
the children. But then I don't have a voice for someone else's, one of my siblings' children. Or if I do have a voice, I have to pick and choose, okay? And I'm not complaining.
Okay.
I mean, I'm looking at this as reality in his endeavor. Because I understand what you say. Whether I'm not a Muslim, whether I believe in this and that, that's not what I'm looking to help people, like you say, be better themselves.
Okay.
Because I'm fine.
Okay.
I'm fine.
But you know what? Well, let's stay right there for a second, because I would venture to say that you, in the bigger scheme of things, because you are so passionate about your family, that you're not fine. And yet you're not fine because you see that there's this disconnect, and you said you feel helpless or powerless in that, so you're trying to get to the younger people so that you can have some type of influence on the younger people, because the older folks have just bought into this system, have bought into what they presented to us, and that it is just what it is. That's what I'm understanding. Is that what you were saying?
In essence, yes.
Okay.
And I'm not trying to be, hey, you know what? If you are blessed to have family, as you are blessed to have a mother and father, we all have mothers and fathers. Eventually, they leave us.
Okay.
So you really start to understand,
Right.
What life is precious.
Right.
So you really understand that you were living for tomorrow. Start living for today.
Okay.
And you want other people to live for today.
Okay.
I don't point out the problems in being objective. I mean, to say resistant. That's a better word. Resistant. I point them out because I said, this is, to me, it's reality. What Son of Man is saying, that this system here that we're working against as a people, as a human, is designed to keep us where we are now. Not only us, even the other people that's controlling us, whether it be police, is designed. So I'll leave you with that, because I'm not giving any solutions, and that's what you thought. And I really can't. I have any opinions I have on the rebellion. I don't want to, and that's what I think it is.
Okay.
It's only it's like hearsay. It's only what somebody else says.
Okay,
Well,
we appreciate your call.
And that's their own recollection.
Okay.
But I tell you what, for people that are listening and they were, I'd be skeptical about anything I read in the newspaper. I'd be skeptical about anything that I have trust in the people that are saying I got the way, but they got one hand in your pocket and one hand in your face.
Yeah.
That just doesn't work out for me.
Yeah,
So
no, we
I'll
get
hang
it.
up.
No, we get it. We appreciate your phone call. I mean, Son of Man, he is in agreement to what you have shared with us, and it's what you've consistently shared with us. And I know, can you believe our time is up? So I'd really like to give you the next couple of minutes to share your final thoughts, and then give us a kind of intro into what you will be speaking on tonight.
Well, the one that said about have to give a unit for us to be able to come together. And the thing that we have to give up is individual. Because as long as we want individual, then have no understanding of how nations work.
Yes.
I was in the Marine Corps for 3 years, and even though I was an individual at times, but I was a Marine for 3 years. And so being a Marine made me, that was what I was whenever the duty called. Didn't make no difference what my individual preference was.
Right.
As a Marine, I had to put that on the back burner and do what my commanding officer wanted done.
Yes.
And I had to report and do what I was supposed to do as a Marine.
Yes.
And until we learn to be an individual when we have free time, and a nation builder when it's time for business, then we we're never going to make we're never going to make it up out of this condition as long as we cannot prioritize individualism and nation building.
Okay.
You building a nation, you don't. It's just like me. I didn't have a forum either. I say that to brother. But to show you that I'm worthy to be listened to, I didn't go to white people to ask, to kowtow to them to give me a forum. I figured out a way to get a forum that I could speak to you from myself.
Yes.
And I pay my way
Yes.
to on WHPR and TV 33.
Yes.
We pay for the airtime. We put our money into what we say we believe in.
Yes.
And that's what I want to see all of us do. If we would just get together, we don't have to look for no land. We're already living on land.
Right.
We're just not united. So where we live, we don't control.
Right.
If we just get together and really speak with one voice, then everywhere we live as a majority, we would control.
Yes.
And I show you how to do it. It's easy. If everything is easy when you know how. Everything is difficult when you don't know how. So I look forward to you all coming in tonight.
Yes.
In our broadcast, in our class.
Yes.
It's at 9 p.m. Eastern time. And we will be talking on some of these things tonight.
Nice.
But the main thing is, if you're tired of being mistreated and by anyone,
Right.
then you need to remove yourself from the position where they can continue to mistreat you.
Yes.
Now, that's just intelligent to me.
Yes.
You know, it's like, but it don't register with all of our stars and all of our, I mean, do you know what would happen to the NBA if all black people left?
Right.
If you know what would happen to the movie industry if black people just decide, okay, you keep your awards and all that stuff. We'll build us a studio and we'll cater to our people,
Yes.
and we will make our own movies and we will do it. Hey, look, we ain't got to depend on them.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's just that we've been educated by them, and so naturally we think we look in the mirror and we see black, but when we act based on white people's mind's eye. So white people think they need white people.
Right.
Black people with white minds think that they need to get with white people
Wow.
because that's just the mindset. Minds gravitate to their own kind, just like birds and everything else.
Yes.
Everything that's alike gravitates to its own kind.
Yes.
So
Yes.
if you want to be able to overcome that, you've got to first recognize that that's in each and every one of us. And those are the devils that we got to fight against and resist.
Yes.
When it says, submit yourselves therefore to God and resist the devil, it's talking about the devil that's in you.
Right. Right.
Resist those evil thoughts, those thoughts that keep you divided.
Mm-hmm.
Resist that.
Yeah.
And pretty soon, that thought will flee from you.
Yes.
It will perish.
Absolutely.
And you will have the thoughts of unity like the Honorable Elijah Muhammad taught me to. I want to be with my own people. And that don't mean I have to hate other people.
Right.
It's just that I want to be with my own people and have with my people what other people have
Yes.
with their people.
Yes. That's great. I agree. Everyone, I know that you should agree too. We're giving you that call to action. You need to tune in tonight. That's what's important. You already know the time, 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So you can continue to get the lessons and the conversation with the Son of Man, the new nation of Islam. We're going to continue the conversation after the break. Don't go anywhere. I'm going to add something a little different that I want you to think about as well. So don't touch that dial. We'll be right back. you stay in good conversation, you gotta tune in to Coffee and Conversation with Collette. That's me, Thursday mornings from 7 a.m. to 8 a.m. on the only station, WHPR TV 33. See you soon.